Hello everybody and welcome back. Today we will do a code along, which is where I go through some code on my screen and I invite you to follow along with me on your screen. We're on the virtual machine, your script and virtual machine. Here is the folder that you should have downloaded when you cloned your repository. We will be going into lab 2, and this bash code along is a file that's not supposed to be a program, as we say here, but it's going to be snippets of code that I will demonstrate and have you follow along. Hopefully this will make it a little easier when you start writing your actual program. Okay, and I'm running Visual Studio Code. I have a plugin for bash on this, and it allows me to run things in the terminal. So we'll start. First of all, I have a methodology that I call just deep enough that I do when I learn a new language, and I will be modeling that for you. Okay, first thing I do for a language is find the official site, because you can get all sorts of information from Stack Overflow about how to solve this problem or that problem, but to understand the overall language you need to go to the source. Okay, and in Visual Studio Code you can actually follow the hyperlink. We'll do that. And it's coming up. It's thinking. Okay, and this is free software. This is free software, and you have the documentation. And you can also run info bash or man bash at the prompt. So this is the general information. Okay, I always have a reference site, because the official site and the reference site are two different things sometimes. Here it's a subset. And this is where I would go to learn about the commands. Now what happens is a lot of times you can pick up a tip on Stack Overflow or something, but you really need to go back and look up the command in the manual, because that way you'll have all the features and the flags and all the ins and outs of it. It may be that you have something on that you find on the internet almost does what you need to do, but not quite. But if you go back and you look up the language in the reference manual, you find out there's another flag or there's another setting that will allow it to do what you want it to do. Okay, history gives you a little history. Philosophy, there's none given, because this isn't really a development language. This is an operating system. Now, it turns out that we will study languages like Perl and Python, which very definitely have philosophies. Okay, the comments, you use the pound sign like you do with most languages these days. There's no multi-line method where you can do several lines at once. You have to put the pound sign in front of every one of them. Okay, we did a little bit on console input output, and actually I think I'm going to change this on the fly. First things first, let's declare our variables, and then let's do console input output. I'm not going to dwell on this a lot because you actually learned this yesterday, but okay. You declare a variable. Remember, you declare it without the dollar sign, but you put the dollar sign in when you call it, and that dollar sign, think of that as give me the contents of. Okay. Now we'll run the selected text. Okay, now like Fred, we're going to use Fred a lot today, as in Fred, Barney, and Wilma. We're talking about the Flintstones. Okay, ran it, and it put it out to me, no problem. I'm going to run it again. Same variable. It does not fuss that oh, you're telling me this is a string, now this is a number. It doesn't get upset about that. Okay, the console input output, you had to do this for your lab 1. Let's review it real quick. Okay, read my vari. It's stopping. It's waiting for me to, and I'll say, whoops. Control Z is your friend. Pop down here. Okay, and what happened was it echoed it back at me. Alright, group and code, they have an explanation on that. Okay, new material. Here's an if then else statement. Here's the first branch. My variable is Fred. I'm going to echo it out. And I'm going to say if it equals Fred, then, Wilma, otherwise no Fred here. Let's run it and see what happens. Okay, it did say, okay, it is Fred, so it says Wilma. Now, a little bit of a subtlety on this Wilma. Notice there's an exclamation point there. Now, some people, technically, most of the time you can get by without putting these single quotes here. But if you put no quotes here, or you put a double quote here, watch what happens. Okay, I will run it again. Okay, and in this case it said no Fred here. Nope, in this case it said Wilma. It worked. Okay. Sometimes people don't like to put the quotes because most of the time you don't put the quotes. Let's see if I run into this now. Okay, it's behaving itself this morning for some reason. Never mind. It gave me a little bit of a problem earlier. It seems to be okay now. Okay, let's look at the second branch. Okay, Barney is not Fred, so I expect it to say no Fred here. Okay, and it says no Fred here as expected. Okay, now I'll throw you a curve. Now watch, you notice that these are not the straight quotation marks. These are curved quotation marks. What I did was I cut and pasted this from Word, and Word very helpfully says, oh, you mean to do curved quotation marks because they're better. Well, they are better unless you're going to run something in a text editor, because in most cases it's not going to do what you think. Alright, going to run this. Okay. And what happens there is it says, okay, we have it there. Now notice up here when it echoes it out. Now I've got it where it echoes it out. It echoes it out without the quotation marks. Well, the first indication I had a problem was it included the quotation marks, because this isn't Fred, this is curly quotation Fred, curly quotation. That's why it says there's no Fred here. So one of the things that if you're cutting things back and forth from a Word document, be aware of that. Okay, last variation here. This kind of reminds me of Tricks, the cereal. Silly Rabbit tricks are for kids. Run this, and it gives you it says you told me Fred, but I was expecting a number. Equal is the dash EQ, and there's a whole bunch of similar ones. This type of notation is for numbers only. Okay, looking over, we've been going about 8 minutes. Okay, so we'll talk about Booleans. Here's a Boolean true. And it says yes, it's true. And notice I didn't say if my Boolean equals true or anything. I said if my Boolean, which means it has to read it as a Boolean. Okay, here's it for the other part of the branch of the if then else statement. Okay, if and it's false, then it should say no. And it does say no. Okay, that's nice. Ternary operator. This is a short if-then statement. And how you read this is A equals, and now I had to do a little content. I actually had to have it run this first. And this is when you'd use a ternary operator, is that if you have something that you want to evaluate an expression really quickly. You don't want to use in this case we're doing everything on one line. And how you read this is if B equals 5, 1, 2, 3, otherwise 3, 2, 1, and echo A, and we'll see what A says, and then B with similar thing. And here we change it. This one should be false and this one should be true. Let's see what happens. Okay, no, I'm sorry, not false, but 3, 2, 1. Okay, B equals 4, B is not equal to 5, so A should equal, in the echo A, it should be 3, 2, 1. It is up here. Here it should be 1, 2, 3 because it is true, and it is up there. Okay, string stuff. You did a little string. You did the string expansion, and I'm going to just run it just to show you a little subtlety of it. Okay, state your name as Fred, and here if you use double quotation marks, it substitutes it in. If you use the single quotation marks, it just puts the name. Single quotation is take whatever that I put in here literally. Okay, search and replace. We're running about 12 minutes now, so I'm going to skip over this for now. We'll come back from this. We might play a little Wordle. Okay, skipping down on it. Let's do some quirks. Okay, let's have A equal 20, B equal 5. Okay, I'm going to run this, see what happens. Okay, it says that C is 4. We expect that. Now, A is 20, B is 3. What do we think should happen? Well, let's see. Aha, it says 6. It doesn't say 6 point, so it basically it truncates it. Okay, I'm going to skip showing the command window, but just know that in DOS you have the same problem. Now the solution is BC for Bash Calculator. Here's an example how to do this, and you will need to know this for your lab. The whole idea is that the Bash system cannot handle decimals properly, so in order to calculate them you have to use a add-on calculator, and that's what BC is. BC is a calculator. So anyway, okay, so we come to the end of this portion of the CodeAlong. We will pick back up with the grep. Thank you.